Hey guys, I am up on my roof, not quite on my roof because it's covered in snow and a little sketchy to step on. But I wanted to make a follow-up video about my last solar video. I had a lot of comments where people were saying, and I look at the comments and I respect a lot of the people that are commenting, but a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you idiot! You don't have your panels angled to the south. That's why you're not getting more energy." And I took those comments quite seriously, and it was actually when I first got this system set up, it was my original intention to have my panels more angled because I am in the northern hemisphere, like quite far north. I mean, I'm about 100 miles from the US border in British Columbia. And yeah, so the sun is down in this area a lot of the time of the year. But what I initially asked my solar guy to do is, hey, well, let's look at angling it more. And what he said, which is actually correct, I've gone ahead and done about a lot of research, and we'll get into it. I'm going to go into my greenhouse office and kind of show you what I found. His initial thing, he said, well, if you angle your panels, you have less real estate to put the panels on because they're going to shade each other out. And we're cloudy for well over half the year. Well, not well over, but at least half the year in this area. And the gains aren't going to be worth how much the rack system is that you install. And so I crunched the numbers. So what I'm going to show you guys in my office is I've exported all this data from my solar panel app, and it's very interesting. And I've basically broken it down into the types of days that we have, like really sunny days, partially cloudy days, cloudy days, and then snow days. So on days like this, I don't get any energy. And the thing that I found out that was really interesting is that even if I had these panels angled, I would only be able to have half of them because the sun is down there and they would be shading another out. So I'd only have half the panels, meaning that in the summertime, when I gain most of the power, like what I'm going to show you on these sheets is that 82% of the power that this system generates happens in the warmer times of the year. And so the gains that would be made in the colder times of the year when the sun's lower in the sky and there's less daylight and it's really cloudy or snow covering the panels wouldn't even justify the cost to build the racking system. But I want to show it to you. I don't want you to take my word for it. We're going to go look at these spreadsheets and I'm going to show you. Okay, so this is what I want to show you guys. In this spreadsheet here, what I've done is I've taken I'll sort it out here for a second. So I took a year. I went from February 17th, 2018 to February 17th, 2018 to 2019. For some reason, it wouldn't let me export from January 1st to January 1st. That's what I wanted to do, but I use this software app called, it's for my solar panel. It's called AP Systems. I have another one too called Nereo that does stuff too. Actually, I'll keep this. We'll watch it again. But I kind of like the way this one displays, and I like how it shows me my panels. And so let me just open that back up again and just show you real quick. So it's neat because like what I can do is I can go into any day. I can export all kinds of information. That's how I got all that spreadsheet stuff. But I can go into any day and it'll show me like when the sun comes up and the sun comes down and how much sun was generated. And so this is just February. This is this is like the last time I had a sunny day this month. This was February 6th, 2019. And this is kind of how the day went. And what I was trying to do in this video, what I want to do in this video is show how, if I were to change the angles of my panels, how much more energy it could generate, and kind of show you that it's actually not worth it because my context is the most important thing to understand here. I get a ton of cloudy days in the year. In fact, I get 50.5% of the days of my year in the Okanagan Valley here are cloudy, where you generate a lot less solar. So this is a sunny day in February. And so right there, if I were to change the angles of my panels, you could see that I would get more sun. The problem is, if I were to angle all these panels, they would all shade each other because the sun is a lot lower in the sky. This is the big conundrum. And you can see one of my panels is not working there for some reason. We're going to get that fixed. Not a big deal. But so that's the issue. If I were to have all my panels angled, I wouldn't be able to have as many on the roof. I could if I got somewhat complicated, and I've spoken to an engineer about this on how I could change it. What it would really involve is these panels here. And the reason there's gaps in there is because there's like those little exhaust things that come out of your roof and stuff like that. I have a chimney there. So if I were to angle these panels, let's say like right now they're kind of like this. If I were to angle them like this, which would be what I would need to angle them to get full sun right now, like at this time of year, what happens to these panels? So it goes like this. Well, all of a sudden this is like 80% shaded out. So what I need to do, they're more kind of like this because I have a roof like this. And so I go like this, angle them like this. I'd have to move these ones way back to get sun. Problem is, I don't have that much roof to do it on because it starts to go over. So I'd have to build some kind of complex racking system that was hinged on the other part of the roof, and maybe the panels went like, they slid like this and then changed like that. Needless to say, it's complicated and expensive. So the question is, if I were to do such a thing, does the extra savings I would make justify the expense? And the short answer is no, and I'll show you why. So the other thing to consider too, like I have 41 panels on my system. This area here is the area, we have this kind of transitional roof that connects my house to the greenhouse here, and it's actually even a lower slope roof. And if I were to angle those panels, it wouldn't work. Like I don't have enough space. Like maybe if these ones here were to be angled, I could forfeit these ones. But then if I leaned these ones up, now they're going to shade this out. So the challenge is, if I were to have my panels angled, I would really only be able to utilize half of them. So I have 41 panels here. If I were to angle all of them, I'd be only utilizing half. Is that worth it? Let's take a look. So this is my year. So what I did was I color coded different. I chose kind of 4 types of days, and I highlight these here: sunny days, mixed days, where it's like sun and cloud, cloudy days, and then snow days. This is where the panels are covered in snow, and it barely generates any power at all. It's kind of like what you just saw at the beginning of this video. And so this is what a year looks like on my solar system. You can see as I get into, and this is weird, this day in July where no solar was generated. I have no idea what that, you know what? We did some work on the system in the summer. That's probably what that was. We turned the power off for 2 days. This is weird though. Look at this. And like these definitely aren't snow days, but I kind of just grouped them. I'll show you that in a second. But really low generating power. That must have been a really cloudy day. And then this is how it looks like. So as we get into winter, there's a lot more of those blue days. So what I did was I basically categorized into 4 days. So I went like this. Anything that generated 10 kilowatts or less, I considered a snow day. That might not actually be a snow day, but that's what it might have been. Any days that were 10 to 30 kilowatts, I considered like a cloudy day. And I looked at previous examples throughout my year where I had like a cloudy day in the summer. Like here's a cloudy day in September. It's still fairly sunny in September, 20 kilowatts. What did I put for that? Okay. And then we got mixed days here, 30 to 50.9 kilowatts, and then 51 to 84 kilowatts. Those are my sunny days. And so I did that so I could kind of group these together to do this exercise. So what I did was I basically added 50% to all of the days, not the hot summer days. Oh, which I actually did here, which I shouldn't do. Let me delete that. So during the summertime, actually, let me do it this way. During the summertime, the sun's higher in the sky here. So for us, at our winter solstice, my horizon, like let's pretend I'm looking at the south, looking at the camera here. My horizon, sun rising in the east and setting in the west, almost looks like that. In the summertime, at my summer solstice, it's like this. It's actually, it goes way behind. It's almost like we were flipped upside down. And so having angled panels in the summertime isn't going to add any extra energy whatsoever. I want my panels to be as flat as they can. Even to have them backwards angled would be ideal, but then that gets really complicated with engineering. How do you do that? So what I did was I said, let's pretend that if I had my panels angled during a time of the year when the sun's lower in the sky. So basically from like, let's call it we're starting here in February. From February all the way to, let's be as gracious as to say May 31st. Okay, because now once we get into June, the sun is higher in the sky, but that's being generous. Let's say I can add 50% to my energy during that time. What does that give me? So I did a little calculation here. Add 1.5 to each of these days. Now, unfortunately, I accidentally did this for all the days, which I'm not going to do because I can't add 50% from June until really, let's call it October. So let's delete those ones. And we're just going to go with this. So it would be adding nothing here. So let me just go equals. It basically just equals this. So I'm making a modified spreadsheet here. So these ones won't add anything. So let's just paste that in there. So what we've done is I've been really generous here because I'm even counting days where the panels are covered in snow, which whatever. Let's just pretend we're still generating some energy there. Add 50% to that. What would that look like? I've basically totaled up on the bottom. So this is what I generated throughout the year, 12,325, I believe it's kilowatt hours or kilowatts, whatever. If I were to add 50% during the times where the sun was lower in the sky, how much more could I get? Well, it looks like I can get about 15,000. So this changes my formula up here. So this was my formula, 12,325. At an average of 11 cents a kilowatt hour, that's worth about 13,555. In my previous solar video, that's what I talked about because I was just trying to do an honest assessment, like how worth it is to do solar if you amortize that cost. And so for me, my solar system is worth about $30,000 retail. I got a really good deal on it for reasons that are none of your business, but I got a really good deal on it. But let's just say at retail it's worth $30,000. So in order for me to amortize my system, here's the thing, and some people pointed this out to me in the last video, which is a valid question, is will energy prices stay the same? Some evidence is pointing to the fact that they might not. They will go up. British Columbia is all hydroelectric though, which is in my opinion, a fairly sustainable form of electricity that is constant, and it's fairly constant throughout the year, including the winter, which is great. But energy prices might go up, so that's important to understand in amortization. But really, if I were to divide 30,000, let me put my calculator here. So if I were to divide 30,000 divided by my savings, 1355, it would take 22 years for this to amortize if prices stayed the same, and they don't. The other variable here that I'm not pointing to, which is kind of hard to put into this thing, is there's a two-tier system for our energy. There's the first tier, which is actually 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and then when you go over a certain amount in a month, everything for the rest of that month is charged at 15 cents a kilowatt hour. So I'm kind of just estimating it at 11 cents a kilowatt hour because I rarely go over the second tier. There's only the odd time that I do. So that's why I said, let's just call it 11 cents. Maybe somebody might say, well, you could do it this way or whatever. But either way, going back to what we were talking about, If I were to add 50% to that time of the year, how much would that save me throughout the year? $300. So is it worth it to do this, angle all my panels, understanding that it's not really possible because I would have less panels. If I had to have them spaced apart, I'd have less panels. I have 41 panels now. So it's not really worth it, right? Here's the other thing that is really important to point out. These are my days in the year, so 364 days. And so I had 102 sunny days in this time period. That's 28% of the total year. Oh, whoa, this got screwed up here. I have to put this back. There. Because the calculation moved around. So that's 28% of my year. 6797 kilowatt hours are produced in 28% of the year. That's significant. That's 55% of my total power allocation. Now that's during days where the sun's high in the sky and my panels are pretty much maximized at the current angle that they are. Maybe there's a way you could slightly improve that, but again, cost benefit analysis, I'm not sure. So my mixed days, more or less spring to early fall days, bit cloud, sun and cloud there. So 49.5% of the time of my solar generates 81.85% of my power. So angling my panels in that time isn't going to make any difference because that's when the sun's higher in the sky. And again, if I were to angle them, I'd have less panels. That's important to understand because I only have a certain amount of roof real estate. If I was living on the land and I had acreages, I think a way better way to do solar is just to have them on posts or a big rack on the ground. Then you've got free to optimize. You can optimize it however you like, but I don't have that situation. So context is really key here. I actually had, for the Okanagan Valley where I live, 50.5% of my days are cloudy or snowy, meaning I'm only generating 18.15% of my energy then. So at best case scenario, if I were to change the angle of my panels, it's only really going to help on those days. Maybe it might help some of these mixed days, but most of these come from the mid-spring to early fall, which is where there's no snow and there's a lot less clouds. In the Okanagan Valley here, generally speaking, we're fairly cloudy from May. It's like usually it's May until a bit of June. Well, no, it's mid-May until mid-June. We have this kind of cloudy, rainy period. Then it's sunny. Like March and April are typically pretty sunny. And then again, that part of May, and then July, August, September, even October are fairly sunny. Once we get into the third week of October, it starts to get cloudy. And then we're in this valley, low pressure system comes in and just sits there all winter. And then what you see behind me is just these ambient clouds. That's 50.5% of our year. So even if I could increase my solar gain during that time, it's at really cloudy times of the day. Is it worth it? Not at all. Like looking at these numbers, I could find ways, if I really combed through this, I might be able to increase this number to say, let's say what would be the best case scenario? $500 that I could gain out of this. Is it worth it to gain $500 of extra electricity with all these costs? It's not worth it. I mean, and it's not even really possible because I'd have to have less panels to do it. And then I would be affecting my sunny days here, getting way less energy during that time. So those are my thoughts on that. The big takeaway here is context is everything. I'm not doing consulting anymore. That I actually have officially stopped. Maybe I should say it here so people stop emailing me. I get literally an email a day of people wanting to consult. The only time I do consulting now is if they'll pay me the rate that I want, and I can turn it into a day trip with my family, and I get some stacked benefits out of it. I don't do consulting. But for those of you who want to consult, and this is really important to understand. If you want to consult for people and you want to provide value for people, you need to understand the context. And when I see people chiming in on YouTube videos and, oh, Curtis, you dumbass, you need to angle your panels, you'd get way more energy. It's like, you don't understand the context. You're chiming in on a 10-minute video that you know nothing about. And so that's important. Oh, I got a bit of sun coming through. That's nice. So context is everything here. And I'm glad I went through this exercise. I'm glad people made the comments, even the ones that called me a dumbass and all that. I didn't delete those comments because it actually forced me to really look at these numbers. And if I wasn't as inquisitive as I am, I would have never even looked at this, and I would have believed my solar guy Landon in the first place, because he told me this right off the hop. I asked him before we set the whole system up, when he consulted for me, I said, you know, isn't it better to have these angled? You know, we are in the Northern Hemisphere. And he told me right off the bat, he said, because of the amount of cloudy days that we get in the Okanagan, it's not going to be worth the investment to spend that much more on an advanced racking system. So he was completely right. Like, he was 100% right. And again, if I wasn't so inquisitive, I would have just taken that at face value. But I like to know the reasons why things are, and I like to dig into the information. And I did. And absolutely, at these numbers, there's no way. Like, if somebody did this complicated racking system for free, sure. What the hell? Nobody's gonna do it for free. At best case scenario for me, as Curtis Stone, who sometimes people reach out to and want to help because they want me to, like, maybe feature them in a video or something like that. So, you know, sometimes I get deals on things because of that. Even at the cost of materials, there's no way. There's no way. Like, I'm involved in a bunch of fabricating projects right now for Paper Pot Co. And I'm dealing with aluminum fabricators and steel fabricators because a bunch of new tools we're going to be releasing. And I know the cost of metal and steel or aluminum. This would be made of aluminum. There's no possible way that somebody could make a racking system for me for any less than $5,000. Just absolutely impossible. And so even at $5,000, it would take more than 10 years to amortize those costs. Is it worth it? Probably not. So those are my thoughts on that. Context is everything. Thanks for all the people that made the comments, even the haters, because it did make me look at this and really analyze this. So thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video.